Alright guys, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry that it's been a little slow on the episodes. If you guys didn't know, I've been doing this, well, the podcast for a couple years now, but just social media in general for about 5 years now. And summer is always the slowest time. BMP's closed. There's pretty much no racing around. Nobody wants to do any car stuff. I'm down here in Florida where it's basically a ghost town for car stuff all summer long, so we kind of just don't do a whole lot. My car's been sitting up on a lift. It's still waiting on the motor. But again, unless I'm traveling to like Kentucky or, North Carolina or, I don't know, Texas, not even Texas. They're pretty slow in the summer too. Summertime's just slow. So you get some solo episodes. I imagine in a perfect world, as we start to get back into racing season, everything's going to pick on up and we're going to be ripping, but it's 98 degrees here every day and 100% humidity. So, less people venture down to BMP, and you guys know the track's actually closed as they're renovating it and doing a bunch of stuff. So we're kind of in limbo. It is what it is. I kind of slow down over the summer and then ramp back up all through the winter. And I got a pregnant wife. She is due in November, so that'll be a fun another thing going on this winter, I guess you could say. We'll see how that all kind of unfolds, I guess. But let's talk about it. So I got some things to talk about. Some cool stuff going on in the car world that I find interesting. If you didn't know, I have an eclectic, weird taste in what is interesting in this world. Probably not that weird. It's probably pretty standard 30-year-old man interest. But here we talk about them a little bit. Robert Ewens. Now, if that name sounds somewhat familiar, he's blown up over the past few days because he is doing the Big Loop. The Big Loop is basically, you can start anywhere, but it goes around or through Florida, up the East Coast, around through the state of New York, basically, through the Great Lakes, down the Mississippi, and back to Florida or wherever you started. If you started on the Mississippi, you go back to the top of the Mississippi, yada, yada, yada. He is trying to break the record right now for fastest around it. He is very likely going to break the record for fastest solo and fastest single engine. But he's trying to break the record for fastest around the loop, which is pretty cool. I think everybody, when they hear like a cannonball style event, is like, cool. And this one's a lot safer than I would say like the cannonball on, from New York to LA. It's probably more dangerous for him, but it's probably safer for everyone in general. You're not going 100 plus miles an hour through streets that other cars are on. This is more of a like 35 mile an hour cruise on a John boat with 84 gallons of gas and a single tiller motor where you're holding it behind your back, kind of ripping like that. Yeah. Sorry, I just had to make sure the camera was still recording, or was recording. So yeah, he's got like a little autopilot, which I didn't know was a thing, where it kind of like hits into your tiller motor and kind of like, it's like a little like device about 2 feet long, and you mount it right to your tiller motor, and you could just cruise along. I guess that's how it works. I don't know. Never really owned a tiller motor boat or messed with one too much. He's on like a 65 horsepower deal, 65 cc, I don't know, something, I can't remember. Simple John boat, and probably when you're watching this, he'll be just touching the Great Lakes, starting to get into Lake Erie. Probably not though, because he's I think going through the locks in New York will slow him down a lot until he hits like the Mississippi, and then he'll be ripping again. But the record is 19 days, 19 hours, and 50 minutes set on like a center console, pretty pretty nice twin or tri-motor deal, 3 crew members, and they said that a couple of years back. He's got a little bit different of a plan. You know, he doesn't use as much fuel, so he's hoping he can cruise longer before stops. And I guess when you're going down the Mississippi, there's very few stops for fuel. Like, they're pretty few and far between. Again, I don't know. This is something that I basically got enlightened on very quickly. I am no expert. I made a video about this, like just a short TikTok video enlightening people on this topic, and it got like 500,000 views on TikTok, 2.5 million views on Facebook, and another like 300,000 views on YouTube. So I was just kind of like, oh, well, this is kind of blowing up. I made a couple other follow-up TikTok videos just to kind of help inform people on what was going on, spread the word. He only posts on his Facebook page, Robert Ewens, and from when I started making videos on him, I have a screenshot. It was at 16,000 followers, and now it's about to hit 100,000 followers, which is really cool. I imagine some of the people saw it from the videos I made, which I find really awesome as well. Hopefully he's monetized, because he's cranking some views right now. The dude is just crushing it, from 16,000 followers to 100,000 followers in like, what was it, 9 days? Like, that's super awesome. Really happy to see, you know, him crush it and it take off like this. So kind of cool. And then, you know, it started to open up all of the other avenues. People started sending me messages about other people doing it, and you know, I came across another guy, Captain Peter. Can't remember his last name, but he is 370 days into his journey, and he is doing the entire Great Loop on a single canoe that he is paddling. And he just got to the bottom of the Mississippi, and he just has to make it up the Mississippi in the next 5 months before it freezes over, and he will have completed the entire Great Loop in a canoe solo in, I don't know, roughly a year and a half, I guess. Just solo paddling around, which is also crazy. He's been doing it a little slower, you know, he's not like quite as fast paced as Robert. 19 days is ridiculous in a John boat again. But it sent me down the full rabbit hole. Me and my brother started talking about it a little bit, not to do it or anything, but my brother has his 100-ton captain's license. He is my older brother. He drives boats up and down the coast very regularly. He's captained many, you know, 70-plus foot boats, 100-foot boats, yachts, small boats, center consoles, you name it, offshore fishing boats. So, you know, this is kind of like more up his wheelhouse, but we started talking about it a little bit, and be cool to try to convince him to do something like that, but I don't think he's not really that type of guy, I would say. And I only think that because he's not a car guy, and this is like a car guy type challenge in a way. I know it's like Robert's not really a car guy from what I've seen, but it seems like it's like a car guy type challenge, like a cannonball, like a gumball run or something along those lines. Like, it feels like a car thing, if you get what I mean. Maybe that's why car guys resonate so much with this, because it it tickles that same spot. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just kind of making a connection that's not really there, but it feels like it is. Obviously, you guys know I've had Cannonball record holder Arnie on the podcast, and we've talked all about him and his stuff, and I've been, you know, deeply interested in the Cannonball stuff, but unfortunately I kind of find it's too dangerous now to really do it. I think the time and the place is kind of elapsed almost, and the time, the moving average that would be required to get that record is honestly just, it's not something that most car guys should be really comfortable with. I know there's people that are constantly trying, and I know they say that they have like a perfect record of nobody getting hurt. But again, it's just one of those things. It's like I think it's hit the ceiling. You know, I think it's reached peak danger, if you will. We don't know if anybody's ever gotten hurt. Of course, people could have before. But then you start looking at different things. You know, I do the drag and drive stuff. I've done quite a few, and it seems to scratch a similar itch. You know, we're not racing on public streets, but you're racing on the private roads and then the drag strips, and then you drive from track to track. So it kind of has that same challenge feel, and you know, kind of always imagining and looking at challenges like this. There's quite a few different ones. Even in a car, like I often think about some kind of challenge like this. Have you ever seen the Pan American Highway? That's something that's always seemed oddly cool to me. Pan American Highway, right where it goes. It goes all the way from Alaska down until you get to the tip of South America, Chile, and it's called the Pan American Highway. Now that seems like an impossible task in a way, because you have to drive through like Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Argentina, Costa Rica, El Salvador. Like you have to drive through Mexico City. It seems fairly dangerous, like not like I'm gonna like crash my car danger, like somebody's gonna kidnap me type of danger. But any other thing like that, let me know. I'm pretty interested. Well, I guess the Darien Gap is a problem as well. I don't know how you solve for that. Can you get through the Darien Gap? See, I'm decently uneducated on it, but I'm sure there's someone that's figured it out or dealt with it or done it. What's like an American one where you can, but you don't want to race it either, you know? Just completing it would be a challenge. Like even, you know, the Great Loop that we're talking about, just completing it in a John boat is a challenge. And Robert also did the Arctic Circle a couple years ago. I think it was last year. Was it the Arctic Circle? He did like the Arctic Loop up in the Great White North. Decently similar to the challenge in the same John boat with kind of the same fuel and everything. It was like a soft test of the Great Loop. I know people have talked about like bicycling ones, but then you're a bicyclist. I don't know. What are like other challenges? What is like another like really cool challenge? There's this Dodge Charger guy on TikTok that's got it's a Challenger. He's got this Dodge Challenger and he's driving it across Europe, and he's not just like, oh, he's in like France. He's in like Eastern Europe. He's in like Albania and stuff like that, where it's like, oh wow, that's like, you know, what is it? Dodge Challenger Europe tour. Maybe I can find it. Okay. I think I found it actually. It said driving 1 year ago, driving my Dodge Challenger across the world, Europe edition. I don't know where he started, but it's just like this purple Challenger Scat Pack and this random American dude on a solo trip across all of Europe. And where did he go? I think he was in Central Asia first and then came across to Europe. So he went through like Mongolia and like crazy places like that. Like, you know, not like your basic, oh, he was in Italy. Like the real places that are like sketchy, I guess. Like things that end with Stan, like Pakistan and Kazakhstan and, those sand countries that most people in the U.S. are just like, bomb them. Like, if it ends with Stan, bomb it. Can't let it just, can't let it spread. Okay, here's another clip of it. 17,500 miles. This was written in 2024. 18 countries. Oh, he did go to France. Had to. Western Europe, hitting the Swiss Alps. In his hammy. In Tajikistan. See, I don't even know what that place is. They're talking about kilometers. See, I didn't have this on my things to talk about. This just kind of came to me as we were doing it. He posts all over TikTok for the most part and Instagram. Okay, so his name is Keith Sinclair. Oh, I can't pull him up on here. Keith Sinclair. Let's see. On July 9th, he was back in the U.S. Oh, he's got it on the side of his car. He went through China, Japan, looks like South Korea, a bunch of Thailand, Pakistan, Mongolia, India, and then start to not be able to name all these countries. Sorry. And he was in the U.S. And he was in, the basic ones, Italy and stuff like that. But he did quite a trip. Cool to look at. So if you're, bored, check out Keith Sinclair on TikTok, where he posted most of his videos. That's where I saw him, at least. But then there's a bunch of videos. There's a bunch of posts about it and stuff like that. It seemed like a cool trip. I mean, it's an interesting concept to take like a big American Hemi purple loud V8 and be like, I'm just gonna send it because you stand out. He's not in like a like a minivan or something basic, even like a, I don't know, like a BMW. I feel like you wouldn't stand out that crazy. I don't know, what car could you take that you wouldn't stand out going across the entire continent of Europe and Asia and Japan? Like what could you take that would be like blend in, still enjoyable, but like cool, I guess, too. I guess you take a Challenger. I mean, Mopar or nothing, Hemi for life. Wonder if the thing needed any repairs. I wonder, I was wondering about emissions and stuff. I guess there's some stuff about octanes and what he was able to get. I don't know. Maybe I should read this story. There's a story on Dodge Garage about it. Dodge Garage. I didn't know that was a thing. But it is what it is. So, yeah, journeys like that. Someday, I'm going to force my son, my firstborn child, CJ, named after me, to go on a adventure like that. I don't know what the adventure will be. Maybe it doesn't have to be like a special route. Maybe it'd be way cooler if it wasn't. Maybe like a Top Gear style Africa trip. Those always seemed cool. I liked when Jeremy was really like mildly racist enough to like almost get him in trouble, but not. So that's always fun. I had a buddy that went to India and rented a, what do they call it? The tuk-tuk. And he traveled in one of those for, was it 30 days across the entire country of India? It couldn't have been 30 days. I can't remember how long it was, but he went from, the service where Americans can pay money to go to India to, get a tuk-tuk and venture it across the entire country. And you have like an end destination, and they're just like, you got this here, it's 20 horsepower, and you got your partner, and you guys are really close because it's a really small vehicle. Have fun. And everything's like 50 cents, and there's no clean water, and everything smells bad, and there's poop everywhere. That's how I imagined it. I'm sure I wasn't too far off, but it seems like about that. But yeah, enough about that. Let's pivot to what is going on this winter. This winter, they do have the Winter Series again, kind of end of this year, beginning of next year. They do the Drag Illustrated BMP Winter Series, where it's the 3 racing event. And this year, they got $1 million to win. Likely not, though. So you could win $1 million, but you probably won't, because if you win all 3 races, you have to win all 3. The U.S. Street Nationals, the World Series of Pro Mod, and the Snowbird Nationals. You have to win all 3 to get the $1 million. So, depending on who wins the first one, we'll probably have a good idea if anyone's getting the $1 million. Now, that's not an attack on the first winner, but depending on how he wins and who wins, I feel like you'll kind of get an idea of whether that person has it in them to win the other 3 or 2. Like if a car was just doing really well and then spun the tires or had an issue, bogged, and then they ended up winning like that through like, a couple things happened here and there. A couple cars got out when they shouldn't have. It happened last year. Could happen again. That could really break this whole thing. Now, I think that it was a very smart way to do this because it's likely with like an insurance company. So I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody about this. So this is all speculation. I don't like to talk to people and then give information like this, but this is how I would imagine it worked. Like a lottery. A lottery has an insurance policy on like, oh, somebody's not going to win this, or like, those, maybe not like a lottery, but like a, oh, shoot this basket and win X amount of dollars. It's a lottery type thing, and you pay an insurance company and they kind of reason the odds, and if it doesn't happen, they keep the money, obviously, that you paid into the insurance, and if it does happen, they have to pay it out. So basically, they kind of just had to pay they probably just had to pay a large insurance policy to be able to put this money up and not actually have to pay out $1 million, because there's the chance that it doesn't happen, and then the insurance company makes money, and if it does happen, then the insurance company doesn't make money. They basically took the risk. The insurance company probably did the gambling. They did the math. They probably got it all explained to them by the Drag Illustrated guys, Westbuck and all that. Like, this is what's going on. This is the insurance policy. Or just a random person took the bet. Maybe that's how it happened. Maybe Elite Motorsports, Richard Friedman, who is also on the thing, he's like a sponsor of it, maybe he just took that bet. And he's just like, hey, you pay me X amount of money, and I'll insure it. If it doesn't happen, then, great. If it happens, then I got to pay $1 million. And some of it was already given to me with your deposit, basically. You get what I'm saying? That nobody might be paying $1 million. $1 million might not get handed out to anyone, but also, like, there's not $1 million, like, there to give out. It just is a chance to give it out because if it did happen without the insurance company, I'm sure that would be painful to the promotions and the promoters of this event. It's $1 million is a lot of money. I know they're big events, but those 3 events to bring in $1 million sounds like a lot of money. They probably do, but I don't know. And then there's obviously all the money on top of it, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on top of that to win. But it's a pretty interesting thing. I think it looks really awesome on a headline. I don't know if it's as big of a draw as the headline kind of makes it seem, because it's kind of like a clunky thing to explain, maybe, that you have to win the whole series. And then the drivers that understand how difficult it is to do know that it's kind of more of like a just like a funny thing. They know that it's very unlikely, extremely unlikely, with how tight the rules are and how difficult this racing is. So I think it's cool. I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know how much they spent to make it happen, of course, because then, you know, you get into that. Could that money have been spent a different way to make the event better in some different direction? But that's not for me to decide, because I'm not the promoter. I trust the promotion staff, and I think they'll probably do what is best. So it'll be interesting to see. Be interesting to see if that draws the crowd. It'll be interesting to see if Ken Cartuccio, I don't know why I couldn't think of his last name, he would be the guy that I would, if I had to, I don't gamble, but if I had to, I would probably bet on Ken Cartuccio. I got a lot of friends that drive pro mods. I'm sorry. He won the whole points on the last one. He only lost the one race, probably because he was in a bad lane and the car just got unsettled. In like the semifinals, he won the points though. He won the last race. He won a huge amount of money. And I think that car and that team and that the money that they've put into that program shows how good that whole setup is and that combo is. He also won a bunch of small tire stuff. The small tire as in, RVW in a similar pro mod. What do they call it? Serial Killer? Axeman? I don't remember what they call that car. They have a couple different cars, Pro Charge deals, that are very, very impressive. And it'll be interesting to see what they bring out. I bet you they have a screw blower this year. If I were a betting man, again, don't bet, but I'm thinking with the way that the rules change, they either have like a Hearts charger maybe, or a screw blower. Probably not a turbo, or 2 of them. I don't know. Let's pivot a little bit here. How do we pivot from this? How do we pivot from $1 million? Do we talk about Toyota? So everybody knows Toyota. Everybody likes Toyota. Everyone likes Toyota. That's an interesting thing in itself. There are people that don't like Nissan, don't like Ford, Chevy, don't like Dodge, but everyone likes Toyota. There's not a person in this world, maybe like the CEO of Nissan or like the CEO of Chevy or something doesn't like Toyota, but everyone likes a Toyota. They just do. It's just a natural state of humans. You know, like humans have a few things that are natural in our biology, and I think liking Toyota is one of them. But Toyota just showed this new supercar, new sports car, something. It's probably going to be expensive. That's another topic, that there are no buyers for mid-range sports cars. Everybody wants a SUV or a $30,000 car or a $80,000-$90,000 car. There's no buyers in that $40,000 to $60,000 price range. So car companies are just phasing out that as a segment, and that is sad, because there's a lot of cool cars that have been made over the last few years in that same segment, but the buying pool is drying up because if you didn't know, there's very little real middle class left in this world. It's all upper class or lower class, unfortunately. There's not much more to say about that. But Toyota unveiled something new. It's obviously everybody's like, oh, the new LFA. The new LFA. Oh my goodness. I don't think it's the new LFA. I don't think Toyota wants it to be the new LFA. They're calling it the Toyota GT front engine. It looks like a Mercedes, like the Mercedes SLS deal, the GT, the Mercedes. Was that also the GT? Yeah, the one that looks like a shoe, the clown shoe. But they unveiled it the other day at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and it sounded pretty awesome. I heard a couple different videos. Well, they also are building it for Le Mans style racing, GT Cup car racing. It sounded like a twin turbo V8 in one clip, but then in a different clip it sounded like a V6 with a supercharger, which really confused me. And they have both engines. I mean, they have a V8 that's already in their Lexuses. They have a V6 with a supercharger, I believe, that's in their like Tundras, so I guess they could have reworked that ish and put like a dry sump on it or something. I don't know. It'd be really cool to see what it is. I bet you it's over $100,000. Probably well over $100,000. They are also phasing out the Supra. So like I said about the no cars in that segment, Supra's gone. This car is probably going to be a step above. The BRZ's been around forever, since the dawn of time at this point. That car is in the 30s, and it is as slow as it ever was. And now they have this new mystery vehicle, and I say not like the LFA, because they probably don't want another LFA, because the LFA didn't work out that well for them. It was way too expensive. It took forever to sell. It took forever to produce. They were so slow at making them. And the transmission just wasn't the right trans for that car. And the technology was outdated when it came out. Like when the LFA finally got into people's hands, it was like, okay, this is kind of outdated. Like the trans tech and like everything. Best sounding car, potentially of all time, but that only redeems it so much. It still has its issues. Not modernly, but at the time, it had issues. Now they're like period correct quirks, even though at the time they were like meh. People just didn't like them. Probably a controversial take, and I love the LFA. I do. It's a great car. I would for sure own one. Would I own it for $1.3 million if I could buy any car for $1.3 million? I don't think it'd be that high on the list, honestly. Probably wouldn't be near. It's crazy that it sells for that much, but that's just how many people have cars that are just that baller, that they're just like, I'll just get an LFA too. I already got 4 other $1 million cars. Might as well get another. Because you'd have to have 4 other $1 million cars, I think, before the LFA is your choice, right? But what do you guys think? Have you seen this? Have you looked at this clip? Toyota GT? Is it going to be cool? A GT3 car from Toyota does sound cool. I don't know. To pivot again, the annual sheriff's office car contest is going on. And now as a taxpayer, there's nothing that warms my heart like the sheriff's offices from every state having a car contest. Who's got the best cruiser? Florida has a C8. There's a bunch of Mustangs, a bunch of Tahoes, some Challengers and Chargers and there's nothing really too interesting. I mean, there's some brand new Mustangs like S650s, but it is interesting to see them trying to win a contest of who basically spent the most. And now I get Florida's was confiscated from a drug dealer, but they do still own it, and it's still part of their task force, I guess. So yes, it was taken from a drug dealer, but I don't know. It's not really lovely to watch them parade around these $70,000 cars. I mean, it's a base C8, but like these Tahoes and stuff, baller. How do you guys feel? Should cops be in the most baller of the baller vehicles? I mean, for years they just had Crown Vics. That was fine. And now every year they're in a new Tahoe. Seems like every single year, fresh Tahoe. Fresh Tahoe, all the fixins, all the lights, all the sirens, fresh one every other year. Seems crazy. What's the budget? What's the car budget? The car budget seems out of this world. They don't need a Mustang. Buying a Mustang as an officer, as a police force, seems crazy. There was that one police force out in Pasadena or something, California, that all got Teslas. That seemed reasonable. They sit there and idle all day. That's half of what cops do. Put them in a Tesla. I don't know. They're cheap. $30,000 Model Y. Put some lights on it. Call it a day. Is the Model Y 30? I don't know, 35. Sure, Elon will cut you a deal on some Steelies. You know. You don't need... I guess you do need the back seats. I don't know. I feel like they could make some PPV Teslas. It's a very American car. Police patrol vehicle is PPV, if you didn't know. But yeah, I don't know. It seems interesting. What about the Tesla as a drift car? How do you guys feel about that? Drift HQ, Adam LZ's company, made this Tesla drift car that seemed like it drifted pretty well. I was very impressed by what it was able to do. Like it was actually sliding. Like Chelsea DeNofa was able to get it to like actually tip in, and it was, or whatever you call it, tip in sounds more like a burnout thing. But he was actually able to get it to initiate like a pretty good drift, especially not being able to clutch kick and stuff. And that was a fairly slow, was it a Y or a 3? I think that was a 3 rear wheel drive. But like imagine a Model S rear wheel drive. Like that thing's got way more power than the Model 3s. It seems like it'd rip. And then they had a whole ankle kit made for it. They put a locker in the diff. Some kind of like locked rear diff. I didn't even know they made like that. It was like a True Track or something like that. Pretty awesome. I thought it was pretty cool. It looked like a cheap, super cheap way to have a drift car that's also your daily driver that you need to use every day. That seemed like a very budget friendly way to do it, because what are they, like $25,000-$30,000 for a decently low mile 3? Yeah, I mean, you can have a lot of fun like that. You put a handbrake in it, call it a day, double brake calipers, and you're off to the races. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That seems like a fun one to me. But guys, this was just a short video. Let me finish off by thanking you guys for always watching and supporting and liking all the videos. And I do want to say, if you didn't know, I have a channel, Bogetti Clips, where I've been posting a ton of videos, like a ton of them. I do topic-based videos where I talk about like a specific thing for 10 minutes and I just rant and then I call it a day. You know, we've talked about Dodge a bunch on there. We've talked about the new Mustang tuning. We've talked about the Tesla murder trial. We've talked about the Thunder Valley closing, different lawsuits going on in the automotive industry, EPA stuff, Florida laws. Like, I've been trying to section them off instead of just putting everything into a podcast like this and just dumping it out there. I've been trying to like actually focus and make dedicated videos on these topics I want to talk about. But again, if you guys enjoy my yapping, go check it out on there. The videos have varying degrees of success. Some are successful, some are not. So go check them out. But that'll do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it saucy. I will see you next time.